see what your portfolio looks like. I mean, your art station. Thanks for doing this. You're 29, if you've been using the video industry, even if I'm doing environment art for living. My main focus, goal, and passion is 3D, is hard surface modeling for weapons things. I know that texturing and presentation is my weak spot, and that modeling is my strong point. But I'd like to know, first of all, if you agree, and that how is presentation and texturing, and how good is modeling for high poly? Especially for high poly, since I understand you guys are not into video games, and what can improve and how in order to grow as a hard surface weapons prop artist. And you want to one day get into Doom Eternal stuff. Okay, cool. I mean, we can, but since we're not game artists, we can try to give you feedback. But like, I heard, for example, that as a game artist, the high poly, like the topology doesn't matter, does it? Nope. Doom fan art. I mean, okay. The thing is, another thing with like, for example, film versus game is film. We focus on realism, where game is kind of more directed towards the art styles. What do you say, channel? High-res. Yeah, the high-res is just for baking. But I mean, like, I don't know. I think everything looks really cool to me. As far as like the topology on this goes, like, this is totally fine. Like, if you wanted to work in a film, we could use this. This is totally fine.
Totally.
The only thing I would do personally is just add supporting edge loops into like areas like this and across here. But if you're working in game, this won't really matter, will it? Because you're going to bake this down to your low res. But like, as far as modeling goes, your modeling is definitely very strong. It all looks really cool to me. So this is your low res mesh. But yeah, everything looks really cool to me, man. I don't know what I would really comment on too much. Something I'll say is a general feedback for like people in general that want to go into VFX. Like, I think there's a difference between what game and VFX studios want to see. So I think game studios in general like to see art stations because they can access, like, there's a 3D viewer they can play around and see. But when it comes to film, we would much rather receive a demo reel because we don't want to have to go and click through things.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's just a general shout out to for film versus game.
And this stuff really can make a difference. I mean, if you imagine a recruiter sitting there just looking at these things every day, I don't know, 50 or 100 or more, they might just really be so bored. They don't want to go and open up every single image, so they might actually just skip your work.
Yeah, we're talking
so
purely as film though.
Yeah.
But overall, man, I think it looks cool. Would you have anything to really comment on, David?
Yeah, there are a few things that I noticed. Just generally speaking, if you're it says here the first one, Doom fan art. If you're actually going to work for whoever made Doom, and you're giving them some work that really is trying to emulate their style, it obviously has to be perfect.
Yeah, you have to match it.
They know best. I mean, there's no other place basically where you could be more at risk to have your work destroyed than the company that actually made the real thing.
Exactly. I think that's a good general point for portfolios in general. Like, I know a lot of people want to do Star Wars fan art to get into ILM, but your work is being looked at by the guy that made the X-Wing. So, like, because like Jay Mercado is a model supervisor at ILM. If he gets a portfolio of someone that built the X-Wing, he himself built the X-Wing, so he's going to be way more critical on you than thing. I mean, I wouldn't, but the thing is with game, for example, is game you have to be able to emulate the art style.
Exactly. I was just going to say that. So to a degree, this is kind of what you would have to do. So especially if you can pull it off, that would be really great. That's exactly what you need to do.
You have to pull it off though.
But yeah, exactly. You have to pull it off. But what I noticed here is, if you look at if you go to the second picture, this one, this picture, the grain of the wood on the handle at the bottom seems to go 90 degrees the opposite direction of, sorry, I mean the handle on the front, the pump thing.
This one?
At the bottom, the grain
Oh,
goes the other direction.
there.
Um, and I'm not sure if, and there seems to be like some smudged textures on the top on the metal piece. I don't know if that's just actually if there's a stretch texture or if this is meant to be good like
Yeah,
that.
this bit looks a bit weird.
Oh, I was sorry. I was talking about the metal piece
Oh,
on
the
top.
metal. Oh yeah, yeah. This
Just
bit
yeah,
here,
it
you
looks a
mean?
bit scratched. Yeah.
Yeah, it does
And
look a bit strange.
I'm saying like these are small things, but everything else is fine, and these are things that recruit or the people reviewing it could notice. And then the grain on the handle on the actual back part, I'm not sure if that would be bent like this. I actually
Yeah,
don't
wood
know how
wouldn't
they
bend, would
built.
it?
Yeah, I mean you could. I guess you can. I think they can just like heat it up and then you can actually bend it.
Oh,
But I
really?
don't know if that's how they make this stuff. You would just have to really do the research on that if you want to go to that extent. Um,
Yeah, I think what would be like maybe the safer way is to kind of try emulate the art style without straight up saying it's fan art. I think that might be the best between
mm,
both grounds. But I mean, I don't know, man. It looks really cool to me. Like, this is the thing. Like, we're not game artists, so we can't really go too much in depth of anything that's wrong with it. But as far as like just general modeling goes, your modeling is totally fine. Like, you could work in film if you wanted. Like, this is totally fine. There's nothing really to comment on with your work. It's cool. I think it's cool.
yeah. Oh, this one here. There was one thing that I wanted to say about this one. If you look at all the edges you have, and that it could be just the style of the asset, but if you look at every single edge here, basically has the exact same kind of highlight treatment. And usually, a worn edge like this or a highlighted edge like this comes from the surface just being worn from a lot of contact or any sort of damage, and it just doesn't make sense that you have the exact same kind of damage and wear on every single edge that isn't exposed to the outside of the object.
Yeah, like this bit shouldn't
Um,
be as worn as like this.
yeah, exactly. And this makes a big difference. I mean, this could be, like I said, this could just be the artistic style. If this is, I mean, this is clearly not a super realistic style, so it depends. But if you wanna just show that you really understand how surfaces behave, then I would definitely try, because you've basically done most of the work. You've already created that mask. You've created a different um, uh, intensity and applied the mask. You can just go in and just loosely paint over the edges that you don't want to have exposed.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff, man.
Oh yeah, the helmet. The one thing that bothered. So I was looking at this first image first,
Oh, first one.
and didn't actually scroll down to the bottom until afterwards I saw the reference. First, it bothered me that you have this kind of anti-slip pattern on the back of the helmet, and it's like it's a small scale. But then I saw that this is actually on the reference.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's just
Um,
part of the design.
yeah, it
But
just
yeah,
didn't really make sense to me. But yeah,
your modeling is good, man. There's nothing really to really comment as far as modeling goes.
yeah,
Yo, Hugo, how's it going, man? Thanks for the host. Yeah, very cool stuff, man. I mean, I think it looks really cool. Oh, so who do we have next? We have Dr. No. Are you still around? Yeah, no worries, man. Thanks for tuning in. Dr. No, are you around? Get rid of these. Yo, how you doing, David? Do you need like a drink break or something, or you were good?
no, I'm fine. We can keep going.
You were good? Alright, sick. Cool, this is some cool stuff. So, who do we have now? We have... Is Dr. No in here? No, he's not in here yet. Okay, cool. So, Aaron, are you in here? Yo, how's it going, Hugo? Welcome to the stream. You sent me a whisper. What did you whisper me? Oh, some people donated as well. Awesome. Thanks for keeping track. Once we get through these, I'll get up to speed on where we're at. You're here? Okay, cool. Awesome. So let's just quickly update this. Wait, where's my that one's done. So next is going to be back or Buck. Sorry if if I said your name in the incorrect way. Cool. So S. Ekasat says, hi there, I'm interested in modeling or texturing position in VFX. Lately I'm doing more texturing work. However, I don't have a visa or degree. I think I need to show at least mid-level for some opportunities. I do have 7 years of experience in mobile games in freelancing. Okay, cool. So, what do you want to start with, David?
It was just with the first
The
ship there.
wipeout stuff?
Yep. I'm not sure. Is this a particular asset that or a particular spaceship that people know? Is this something, or did you make this up?
Wipeout is a game.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
But Wipeout's an old game, so this would be a modern interpretation of it.
Okay. The thing that that I noticed immediately for me is that the whole thing to me looks really small. It's really small scale, but I know that the reference down below has the same kind of effect. So I guess that's.
There's reference below.
There's a reference concept art or something. Yeah, there's somewhere in the middle up. If you go up one more, yeah.
Oh, this is the concept. Okay. But I think this, like the thing with VFX in general, is we will get concepts which don't accurately represent what it will be like, and that's our job to take it to the realistic level.
Yeah.
But
and yeah, it's always a risk to show the reference in when you're showing a portfolio piece. Like if you really nailed it, and that's difficult to tell for anybody who is doing any kind of work like that, then you might want to show the reference, but it's really difficult. You're pretty much always setting yourself up for failure if you haven't nailed it 100%. But yeah, so what I didn't like about this was that the dirt that you have seems to be very uniform. There isn't
from here.
any. Yeah, there's no specific purpose to any of the dirt here. The one thing I can tell is that it's in the crevices, but besides that, there doesn't seem to be any specific reason why the dirt is there. It's just generally a bit dusty. But I imagine this thing would go really fast, so I would imagine that some of the dirt would definitely be very directional from the front to the back.
This thing is made to go fast.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like it. It feels.
It doesn't. Yeah, it feels like it's been sitting. I don't know, in a hangar under. It actually the specularity to me almost seems like it's been sitting under a maple tree or something, and there's a lot of tree sap on it. It's just like the specular quality to me looks like it's a bit sticky.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so
this feels really sleek and fast.
Yeah. So yeah, I have some purpose to the dirt, and put it in very specific areas rather than just generally plastering on it across all surfaces. I know at the bottom you have a few maps shown where it's definitely more in the crevices than in other areas, but it just looks a little bit too random to me.
What is that? Is that?
Yeah, I noticed you put a this kind of overall general damage breakup on it, which is cool. Generally, that's a really good idea for hard surface objects, but I think your frequency is way too high, and it's just generally applied too strong. It distorts the surface too much to an extent where I feel like this has been in a serious accident, and I would expect a lot of damage in the paint as well if it's distorted like this.
Yeah, it does feel pretty banged up.
Yeah, but what I like is that in the. Did I just imagine this, or you have?
Which one?
Oh, I think in the next page there's a clay render of this.
Oh, the clay one.
And you actually have
the clay is really nice.
Yeah, I really like that. I almost feel like the textures are dragging it down a little bit. I really like that you have the speck detail in the glass. Some breakup in there. The little dust speckles.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's very cool. Yeah.
That's the thing. Like yeah, I kind of feel that way as well. I think like say if you only wanted to be a modeler, I would personally suggest forget the textures
Yeah, totally.
because your model is great. It's perfect. There's nothing to really comment on. Everything is very nice, very clean, efficient. So
yeah, you can really only lose if you add textures because if you're a modeler, you're not going to be as good in texturing as in modeling. So the worst part is what's going to drag it down. It's only as good as the worst part of the reel.
I mean, I'm never really a fan of this sort of stuff. Like, I would find different ways of like spreading the edge loops out. But at the end of the day, this is still not gonna like. I wouldn't not hire you because of this, if this makes sense. Because your general topology spread in general is quite nice. But yeah, I just feel like your modeling is really nice. It's just the texturing. I don't know. I kind of feel this is a bit too simple. I think you could have way more complexity in the cockpit. But if you don't really see it that much, it's not too bad. Yeah, I think the cockpit in general is just a bit too simple.
Yeah. Like there are these shapes, like there's one really big shape, that frame of the cockpit. It's all one piece.
Quite
that's
thick.
like that's yeah. If you imagine this is real, I mean the whole cockpit basically is one piece. That shell that he's sitting in, and that's it's hard to believe.
Yeah, man. I think like these renders are really cool. I definitely think it's this. I think this is what pulls you down. But if you want to focus on texturing, yeah, definitely David's advice on texturing. The way
but I mean, like, it's not awful.
Yeah, it's not
just
bad.
pointing out, yeah.
It's yeah. Your modeling is definitely your stronger point, I feel. For me personally. But yeah, do you have anything else you want to comment on this?
I was looking at the chair. Oh, not on this one, no.
Oh, the chair? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. This one?
Yeah, and my initial thought when I saw this first image was the scale just doesn't seem right. It's the grain of the wood seemed too big to me, but then I looked at the bottom and I saw the reference, and this is actually what it looks like.
Really?
So,
and
if you look at the reference, to me that looks completely off. Like the real thing looks like it's a completely wrong scale. But yeah, but the reason why I'm pointing this out is because it might just be me here that I have a really skewed perception of this, and it actually looks completely fine. But if you choose something that already looks odd to begin with, and you even if you do it perfectly, it's still gonna look odd in the end. So yeah, definitely make sure that you choose something that doesn't have this risk attached to it.
Is it this one on the bottom? Is that?
No, I don't know. To me, just honestly, I don't know. I can't explain it. The grain of the whole wood, even the handle, this handle on the side, it just looks like it's. I don't know. It's a really strange scale. Like, why would you have this handle? The metals be so thick? It's I don't know.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's a real thing, so no point in criticizing.
As far as general like texturing goes, you think it's pretty decent?
Yeah, it's nice. I like it.
It's nice.
Another thing that I was going to say first when I looked at it, I was like, I would like to have a little indentation in the upholstery to have this a little bit more worn, since this is clearly an old piece. But then again, looking at the reference, you actually did it just like the reference. So yeah, not much to say.
Pretty cool. What else we got here? Fire Android.
Oh yeah.
Can I just look on the modeling? The modeling's pretty cool.
Sure.
I'm personally not a fan of that. Like, but once again, like, this is not the end of the world. I would personally just kind of redistribute these edge loops out a bit more, keep it a bit more even. But like the rest of the model is fine. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Sorry, you can keep going.
Yeah, in terms of textures, I think it's nicely rendered. I noticed that, I don't know what you use to texture this, but the edges, the damage on the edges is nice, but it's all the same stamp. It looks like it's, I feel like it's done in Mari, and it's one particular brush that I use as well, and it's basically, it could be any other application as well, but it's like just tracing the edge with that brush, and I think that's good for a base here and there. but in the end, it doesn't look like organic real damage if it's so repetitive. There doesn't again seem to be any purpose to it. It's just the same kind of damage everywhere, and usually damage like this comes from a certain interaction with the piece.
Yeah, he said this
And
was his first Mario project.
okay, yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah, putting it in that context, obviously.
But you're going to be judged on it, that's the thing.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. That nobody's gonna know this. But yeah, and then the material, I can't really tell what material this is. To me, this looks like sanded down car paint, but it's completely evenly sanded everywhere. Which from a lot of wear, I can totally see it's sanded and like, I don't know, it's been sitting in the sun for a long time. But I would definitely like to have this a little less uniformly uniform in the spec. Like you could, this actually reminded me a little bit of the robot from Transformers, that little Vespa robot from
Oh, yeah.
Transformers.
Yep.
And I think there's so much cool detail on that thing. And especially if it's sanded down like this, if it's worn this much, I would expect. I mean, this must have been sitting in the sun for many, many years to get to look this bad in the paint. And then I would expect there to be also rust and other kinds of damage. Yeah, it's just bringing it to the next level. But I like the way it's rendered, and I like the flame effect. That looks cool.
Hey, he did the cable thing. The cable's perfectly flat on the floor.
Oh yeah.
I'm not gonna unsee this now since you brought it up.
Yeah. Oh, I like the displacement pass on the whole thing.
Yeah.
If that's, I don't know, displacement or actually rendered. That's one thing actually.
Where's the displacement?
Oh, it's not in the high poly.
Yeah.
It just looks like it's dented.
Yeah, it's
That's
cool.
very cool.
Nice.
That's really, really cool to have. And you don't even have to. You can get this effect by applying just a tolerable, really soft noise. Not to that extent. It's always better to sculpt it. But yeah, if you don't want to deal with maps, or you don't want to deal with exporting displacement and creating the UVs, you could always just export the high-res mesh and do a turntable of that, and then still only show the wireframe, because it doesn't really matter whether you know how to export the maps. I mean, you're gonna find out this is not something that's rocket science. So if you don't want to deal with UVs and texturing, you can still just export the high-res mesh and show that.
Yeah,
but it's important to show the effect, the organic damage that you can apply to a hard surface asset.
Barracuda. I think I've seen this before. This is really cool, man. You didn't texture this at all, did you? Nope. Cool. I mean, as far as modeling goes, I think you've shown me this before. I remember looking at this, and yeah, man, it's very clear you know how to model. There's nothing really I can comment on. It's definitely, yeah, as David brought up, like texturing is definitely the area to work on. But as far as like modeling goes,
yeah, and I like the presentation of this as well, and I like this one a lot more
like
in
the
terms
floor.
of the modeling as well. Than I like this more than the first chip that you did based on the reference. Just I feel like maybe, I don't know, you limited yourself in terms of adding realism to the shapes by sticking too much to the reference on the first one. But this one looks a lot more detailed and realistic in terms of the, like, you've got all these panels and everything separating large shapes.
Yeah, your modeling presentation is always good. He says he had a textured version, but it didn't look as good.
Oh, that's good, and that's great that you made the choice not to show it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's very important when it comes to portfolios. You need to be able to self-analyze your work and understand if it looks good or not, and pull the plug if it doesn't. So you made the right call if you didn't feel it was good. Skeleton Warrior. Oh, this is more of a concept art. It's more of a game asset, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't see anything to say about that. I think it looks cool.
Yeah, looks pretty cool, man. You have a pretty cool folio, man. I personally think your modeling is definitely like very strong. Like there isn't really too much to comment on your modeling. It's more the texture and the shading side that you need to improve. So I hope David's feedback can come in handy for you. Yeah. How was that? You have any questions, or you're good? Yeah, very strong stuff, man. I think this presentation is really nice. But yeah. So David, I need a pee. So we'll have a quick 2-minute break.
Yeah, I
Alright.
can I can maybe mention a few things that I wrote down. Just general things about demo reels, what to do, what not
Okay,
to do.
you can talk while I go.
Yeah.
Alright, I'll be back in a sec.
So let's see. Oh yeah, we've already covered the fact that at the beginning, obviously, you don't want to have that slate being such a distraction. The first title card, 20 minutes in, you're still busy with the effects from the title card, and just generally don't make the reel too long. 2 minutes is the maximum. I remember one time I had a rather unexpected interview. I didn't have my reel ready, so I just started putting things together and ended up with a, I don't know, 4 or 5 minute long reel. And that's definitely not something that you want to do, because if you're actually just sending out this reel without already having the interview already, because I got this interview without actually showing my reel, I believe. Yeah, but if you're just sending out this reel, chances are half of your stuff is going to get skipped. And yeah, like we just said, if you're creating an asset, don't do the things that you're not good at, that you know that you're not good at. Like if you think that you want to do a spaceship and the spaceship is hovering over water or something like that, and you're not a fluid simulation expert, just don't do it. just do the spaceship and do the spaceship well. Because every minute basically that you wasted on the fluid simulation is really a minute that you could have put into refining your model and really showing it off.
I came into the end of that, but I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely focus on what you're actually doing, because if you do something and it's not strong, it'll pull your folio down.
Yeah. And also, it's not even that people would go like, oh, well, this guy can't do fluid simulations. In the end, people will say like, well, if he can't judge that this looks bad and he shouldn't be showing this, then what other judgment is he going to make about the work that he's producing at the company?
Yeah, exactly.